Good morning and welcome to Ask Wildman. My name is Miles Bassett. I'm the CEO and founder here at Wildman Web Solutions. We are a full service digital marketing agency based in Lawrence, Kansas. We work with small businesses to help them get online and leverage technology to achieve their goals. At the beginning of this whole crazy pandemic time, we started getting a whole lot of questions from business owners getting their businesses online for the first time, or really trying to leverage the online presence that they had to survive in this crazy upside down year we just had. So we started this live streaming live to our Facebook page and now to our YouTube channel as well, as an open Q&A to anyone and everyone who wants to jump in, ask us some questions about technology, about marketing, about advertising, about design, just about business in general. We are here to answer those questions. So if you have any questions, or if you know someone who has some questions, direct them over here and put your questions in the comments below. Or if you're catching this later, you can email us your questions at askwildman@wildmanweb.com, and we'll get to you next week, because we are doing this every week, Wednesdays at 11. I've got that email address scrolling below me here in case you need to grab it. Otherwise, you can visit our website at wildmanweb.com. We've got a bunch of resources there we've been putting up over the last couple of months. We've got our blog there, a huge pile of articles that are just free resources for you. We've got our toolkits, a free software you can sign up for if you go to wildmanweb.com/LBOT. That stands for Local Business Online Toolkit. It's just basic software set up to help businesses get online fast and easy and remove some of those hurdles up front. So check that out. Otherwise, I think we're going to get going with the show here. Like I said, if you have any questions, please throw those in the comments below. Or if you think that the information that we're putting out there is useful, give us a like, a share, a subscribe, depending on what platform you're watching us on. Help us reach more people and answer some more questions. So I keep saying us here because normally I have some other people on here with me. Today I have my friend Mike Hanna, marketing side of our department, our marketing department side of Wildman Web Solutions. Mike, good morning. How are you doing?
I am fantastic, Miles. Just getting better by the minute. How are you doing on this fine morning?
I'm all right. Busy over here. It's been a busy start to the year.
Yes,
2021.
it has. Yeah,
and we thought 2020 was wild, but 2021 jumps in here and says, "Hold my beer."
Firing on all cylinders, I think is what they say down there in the old stockyards. Yeah, it's been a busy one. Hope everybody's had a good start to the year, and it's the second week, and we're in it. That's for sure. And up to our necks and having some fun.
And it's not just us. You got a lot of businesses. I've been talking to people. Like it's just crazy time right now. I was on 1 Million Cups this morning. If you guys don't attend 1 Million Cups every week, that's a nice networking group. Get a presentation from a small local business every week. Mostly, we've just been doing all virtual now, but hopefully we'll be back to in-person presentations at some point this year. I don't know, but check that out. We've also got Lawrence Restaurant Week starting this week. So
yeah,
if
definitely.
you want to get out and support your local restaurants, now is the time. They're all running different kinds of specials and promotions. So hop out, and they expanded Lawrence Restaurant Week to not just be downtown, but the entire city now. So go to your local restaurant, your favorite local restaurant, and help them out this week. Well, actually, the next 2 weeks. They're doing Lawrence Restaurant 2 weeks this year. So plenty of opportunities.
No doubt, Miles. A lot of big news happening out there as well too, in the marketing and advertising and business space, and we're trying to just keep up with it, I guess, at the moment here.
Yeah. Has there really been any big news in technology this last week? I don't know. I didn't see anything happen.
There's been a few. Certainly the big news that came over the weekend. I don't know. I don't know if we were going to talk about that, but we probably should.
I don't really know how to not at least basically cover it, but Yeah, we'll
Okay.
see. We'll toss that to the audience out here. If you guys want us to dive into something, then please say so in the comments. Throw your questions in there. This is really meant to be more of a back and forth and less of just a monologue up here. So if you have any interest in anything that we're talking about, if you have some experience in something we're talking about, you have some more questions, you want us to take a deeper dive, yeah, just throw that in the comments and we'll engage with you that way.
So here's something interesting that I've noticed, Miles, that it probably hasn't come on people's radar and with all the current events that are happening out there.
Yeah.
But something that has come on people's radar probably. Are you familiar with the Queen's Gambit
Yeah,
series on Netflix, Miles?
I am. I haven't seen it yet, but I've been hearing stuff.
Okay, yeah. So you're aware of it. So this is a little interesting trend that's been happening. I think Queen's Gambit came out maybe around like Thanksgiving. It wasn't that long ago. Maybe 6 weeks or so. And it's for those of you who don't know, it's about a girl who basically she takes tranquilizers and she becomes a chess genius. So I'm completely paraphrasing the plot there, but that's basically the gist of it. And so people have found a renewed interest in chess.
Mhm.
And on Amazon and eBay, I believe those were the two uh, sites that were in this study. Sales of chess boards and chess related products have accelerated 300% since Queen's Gambit started on Netflix. And so I was thinking about this the other day, and I said, "My goodness, is there a better example of content marketing right now um, out there?" Content marketing, of course, something we talk about a lot on the show, and we try to give you all real world examples whenever we can. But it's basically the opposite of interruption advertising, which is typically what we see on something like television or radio, or where we have a break literally in the entertainment, and it's filled with messages that we didn't necessarily go on that platform to receive. We were going there for the entertainment. And the idea of content marketing in a nutshell is that the message of the marketing is wrapped up in the entertainment. It doesn't always have to be entertaining. It could be informative or educational as well. But that's the idea behind it, is that people are absorbing the marketing message while they're being entertained, not as a separate thing that is inserted into the entertainment. And so I don't think that this was done on purpose. Maybe the producers of Queen's Gambit hold some stake in chess or chess.com. I don't know. But I think it was an organic thing, that just kind of happened. But it's a great example of what can happen when you capture people's imagination and attention through great content, and then you're able to leverage, a product or an idea or a service through that, and is kind of a remarkable little trend that's happening.
Yeah, I also don't think that was intentional, but it is kind of cool to see that cause and effect style thing happening, especially when we're talking about manipulating those kinds of trends intentionally as part of our marketing efforts. This is just an example of how it can really work, whether you're trying to or not. Um, I think we talked a couple of weeks back about a particular content marketing campaign that completely worked on me. So I had to note it here, but it was a company called BattleBox, not BattleBots, the
Mm-hmm.
fighting robots or anything, BattleBox. They sell like survival gear, that kind of stuff. And they put a show up on, I think, Netflix, and then marketed it out like hillbilly mythbusters, basically, where they were blowing stuff up, but really what they were doing was they were testing out their own product that they were selling. And then if you watched the show, you found it entertaining, they were blowing up stuff and crashing things and everything, then you saw that product, then you would probably go out and want to buy it, and then you would buy it from them because they were the number one distributor of things. So they were just pretty much made an entire season of a highly entertaining commercial for their own products. And it totally worked, as far as I can tell. They saw a big spike when they put that up there. Not to mention they got paid to actually make part of the show, and there's lots of different monetary streams or financial streams that you can put into something like a television show development.
Mhm.
So I think we talked a little bit last week and the week before about just being creative, thinking outside the box, especially with some of these things coming down the pipeline for digital marketing in the next couple of months, next couple of years. It may force some of us to look outside of how we've been traditionally advertising, outside of traditional advertising and traditional digital advertising, being a little bit more creative in our content marketing strategy, because that's something that is not going away. People want to absorb content all day, every day. And if you can somehow tie it back to your business, that's a win.
Yeah, 100%. That's the name of the game right now. Is how can I intertwine my messages with where the attention already is, or even better, bring attention to me through my content. But Miles, since you mentioned this, also kind of I guess just dovetails into the whole discussion about what's going to happen, which I guess it's already happening. I got a notification, I believe a couple days ago it was that the new iOS update is ready for Apple users, and as we talked about last week on the show, nobody really knows what's going to happen when this goes down, but it sounds like we're going to start finding out relatively soon, the rate of which people opt in or not to this. Basically, the ability for them to shut off third-party data and keep all their data on the platform, and then not be served ads, relative to that data would be the end result of that. And so we'll see. Last time they did this, about half of the people opted in on the last update, but this one the alert is a little bit more forward, and they're going to have to immediately decide once they update their iPhone if they're going to opt into this or not. And so, personally, I don't know how many people really understand it. I think a lot of people will opt out of it just because they think, oh no, why would I want my data out there?
Right.
For me, I mean, hell, I prefer to have ads that actually have some sort of relevance to what I'm interested in. So I wouldn't opt out of that, even if I wasn't a marketer, so to speak. But to your point, this is going to just be an era where we're going to have to find what works and what doesn't work. We have to go back to the drawing board on some things. We have to get creative. We're going to think outside the box, and we're going to have to go back to some things probably that we hadn't relied on in a while, like our email list, and things like that. And so that's why I think that really the one takeaway that everybody can do from this, no matter what level you are in terms of understanding or executing your marketing, is get emails. Start your email list, or start your email list back up, or double triple down on what you're doing to grow and engage on your email list, because not only are other avenues like email going to become more prevalent now for marketers and advertisers, but that source data that you have, that information, when somebody opts in and gives you their name, their email address, and their phone number, we'll still be able to use that to target people. We won't have to rely on third-party cookies to do that. That's direct data. And so the more kind of data that you can do, well, you can put that into your Facebook campaigns, your Instagram, your Google ads, whatever, and create what we call custom audiences, where you're targeting exactly who you want to target, and then create lookalike audiences based on that. So why some of the things are going to go away that we've become reliant on with digital advertising, we're still going to be able to use some things that are hopefully well within our toolkit currently, in order to still have good results and drive campaigns to optimize for more sales.
So I'm going to ask you to expand on a potential theory here, as it does tie into something I wanted to bring up later. But it is another aspect of the new update. I think, what is it, 14.1, whatever whatever number we're on now.
14
There's a
something.
couple there's a couple other changes in there that I wanted to bring up. But what do you think are the chances of Apple breaking off and doing its own thing, as far as Apple advertising network or something like that, where they're utilizing your data in a different way rather than feeding it to Facebook, Google, and other third-party things? What if they just take it and run with it on their own side of things?
I'm sure those plans are drawn up over there in Mountain View, California, Miles. I have no doubt. that is at least, yeah, those plans have been arranged. Whether or not they're going to execute on it sooner rather than later, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think that was probably part of Apple's game plan from the beginning. I mean, we'll say what you want about Apple. I mean, but they are extremely savvy in terms of how they built the vertical integration of their business. And basically, I don't know, Miles, would you call it a closed platform, I guess? In
Yeah,
the
Apple
sense
doesn't
that
like
you can,
working with other things. You have to do Apple things with other
right.
Apple things. Yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much common knowledge at this point.
Yeah, 100%. And if you see the gigantic market growth in digital advertising, and then you see the gigantic market share that Google and Facebook have of that pie, that would be attractive if I was a competitor, like Apple, for sure. To try to go after, and they could certainly do it, and they could certainly, yeah, I mean, I don't know what's stopping them at this point, other than they have other irons in the fire that they're tending to.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm sure that has been well thought out and could happen. Whether or not it's going to happen, who knows?
Well, I say that because it looks like to me that it's very possible that they are trying to do that on another front. It looks like they're trying to take a larger slice of the pie when it comes to search. So if you think
Mm,
about the main players um, in mobile devices out there, it's basically Apple and Google. I mean, that's 99% of the market share now. So Google, while they do some stuff together, they are the main competitor here. Google's other main thing is search. And one of the things coming out in the next update, or is really already out, but it seems to be where they're moving, is that they might be actually making a search engine play. And if you guys are receiving our newsletter, you'll be able to read this. We're sending this out. Have we sent out our last newsletter, or have we not done that
I
yet?
believe it's what's today? Wednesday?
The
Tomorrow.
15th.
It'll come
Okay,
out
coming out tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yeah. So
God willing.
we've got the second installment of our SEO newsletter in there, and it's talking about wrapping up trends for 2020 and a couple of big announcements and updates coming out in 2021. The third one on there is that Apple's now showing their own search results and linking directly to other websites. This was kind of hinted at in a TechCrunch article a little while ago, that Apple might be developing a search engine competitor to Google. And this was encouraged by some of the antitrust activity taken in the US this last year and the investigation to Google. Um, we talked about that a couple of weeks, but basically Google's getting sued. And this particular one was um, alleging that they were some sort of monopoly, or that they have some sort of monopolistic power over the search. Uh, I don't know what you call that, market. Is that really a market?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, So you said that Apple has this immense vertical. They have pretty much control over everything. They have the technology and the money and the market power to be a legitimate competitor to Google if they just step up and do it. And with the Justice Department scrutinizing the Google Apple agreement and Google search ads and how all that information is going back and forth, it's looking like this new update is allowing users to pretty much, you can search things from your home screen on Apple devices on your iPhone. You can search stuff, and it's going through Apple's own search results and taking you directly to the sites, instead of what had previously been happening. When you search something, they're all piggybacking off of Google, and then showing you like Google search results, and then you can go there. But they're cutting out the middleman and just putting in their own search. And considering that they are the only major player other than Google in the mobile space, and they do have that immense vertical power in the technology sector, they could be a legitimate competitor to Google in the search world, which is something they haven't really had for a long time. It's pretty much just been Google, and then someone jokingly throws in Bing for fun. That's been the search world for the last couple of years, and
That's
that could
true,
very
but
well
there
be
there
changing.
is some rising competition in that, though. Not just Apple. You got DuckDuckGo, and I don't even know some of the other ones. But there's more than there was. I'll put it that way.
That's true. That is true. But Google is so powerful.
No
It's
doubt.
difficult to stand up to something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
if someone was going to do it, Apple's the guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're 100% correct, Miles. And and that's a really interesting news. Uh, maybe let's get Anna to get an article out about that or something like that for the people. But
Well, they have to sign up for our newsletter to get this article. There is
well,
an
tell them
article.
how to
It's
sign
in
up
the
for the
newsletter.
newsletter, Miles. They
All
can't,
right, so we're doing a
we got
newsletter.
to meet
Go
them
to our
halfway
website,
here.
wildmanweb.com. There's a little sign up for our newsletter thing there at the bottom of the homepage. We should probably put that higher. But yeah, we'll be sending that out tomorrow, I guess. And there will be an SEO newsletter built in there with a couple of big points, and that's one of them.
Yeah, so Miles, this in this discussion, I mean, we could really expand this, I think, to any industry, and I know we've danced around this topic a little bit when we've talked about, well, what if 5-10 years down the road, but maybe we've never really illustrated the point articulately, as we could, and that is if they wanted to, Apple, Facebook, Google, I mean, any of them, they could get into any business they want and cause major disruption.
It's true.
What if Google and Apple wanted to be in the hardware store business tomorrow?
I mean, you see Amazon owning Whole Foods and putting out grocery stores.
Right. Amazon's
So,
already doing it. Yeah, they're already doing it. But so far, Apple and Google, they've pretty much stayed in their lane. But they don't have to, especially when we talk about this whole idea of voice search, and you talking to your Google Home device and asking your Google Home device, well, where should I order pizza from today? Or where should I get this? Or where should I get that? Well, why wouldn't Google just buy up a pizza distribution business and bring it under their vertical integration, or Apple do the same? And then when you ask them where to go get something, they're going to sell it to you. I mean, all of that is not science fiction in the least. That could be a very real reality in the near future, which is why we're always harping on the idea of building your brand as much as you are trying to execute your daily sales and your daily leads in a small business. Is, if it comes to that type of scenario, if the name of your brand does not roll off your customer's tongue, there will be very, very difficult for you to do business with them.
yeah, I think that maybe the more realistic, or at least the shorter term version of that, is going to be something more like, partnerships with major brands, so that there's some sort of backdoor deal between Amazon and Pizza Hut or whatever, and they're going to pay for priority spots on those on the voice search. So when they do say, "Hey, order me a pizza," this is the default. That big company's the default. I see that happening before I see Google Pizza coming up.
No, you're absolutely right. That's how it'll progress. Yeah,
crazy tech giants that can do whatever they want.
They're gonna do the math on it. They're gonna go, you know what? If we just owned this business outright, here's how much more. I mean, it's they're at least going to consider it.
But that doesn't really change the overall point to our audience here. We're talking to small businesses, particularly in our community. But if you're watching from the other side of the world, this is equally relevant. And that is, you've got to build up that brand recognition. You've got to build up your brand, because that's what's going to push you through those kinds of difficult trends and allow you to compete with the larger businesses. We use the pizza name just because locally we've got some really awesome local brands that have spent the last couple of decades building up that brand awareness to the point where, people have their phone number recognized along with a little jingle that was invented decades ago. And something like that can transcend the trends that we're talking about here, those major partnerships with behemoth type businesses, new technological updates, iOS updates, new search engines, voice search, all that stuff. None of it's going to be able to touch your brand if your brand is solid.
Mm-hmm.
Who's got it? Well, we do have one question here, which is playing into what we were sort of dancing around earlier, of course, from our favorite commenter, Mr. Jeff Fry. I
Morning,
think
Jeff.
It does merit a response here. So the question is, do you see another version of Apple and Google Play Store that hosts app for download? So stepping back a little bit, just in case there's a human being on this planet that has not heard the news of the last week or two, um, and that is the news of Parler. We've talked about not only them, but other kind of up and coming social media platforms over the last couple of weeks as maybe another opportunity for small businesses to get out there and maybe have some more cost effective advertising in smaller markets. But now there has been a massive shift in that conversation as Apple and Google and Amazon actually have decided to completely stop carrying this particular app. This app has some other political ramifications to it, but even outside of that, not even touching on the policy positions of particular individuals, just the ability for them to unilaterally pull someone from the store like that is an immense power, and one that I think is going to play into some of the lawsuits we've been talking about, some of the antitrust suits. People are talking about particular sections of the Communications Act and how these social medias, or not only social media, but some of these platforms should exist and how they should be legislated or regulated or not. It's a major conversation in our country right now, and I don't know where it's going to go. Anyone that says otherwise is lying. There's a ton of things up in the air right now, but there's a couple of things I think that we should explain just to, I don't know, just to capture the gravity of this move and how important it is, how just big a
Yeah,
move it was that they
it's
did this.
it's historical. It is.
Specifically, your question here, do you see another version of Apple and Google Play Store that hosts apps for download? No, quite honestly, no, because the when you're downloading an app, you're downloading an app that's written in a particular language using particular technologies that's built to operate on a particular operating system. So if you're using an iPhone, then you're downloading an app that is compatible with the iOS operating system. And the only place that you can get those apps, the only place that those devices allow you to download those types of apps is from the App Store. Android devices are a little bit more open in that they use more open source stuff. Most of their apps are really just Java based, which is an open source platform. So there's really more ways around it there. And I could see maybe being able to download apps from other things or from other places outside of the Google Play Store. But they've been putting in more and more restrictions as the years go by. It started off just totally open on Android and totally closed on Apple. Apple has locked things up even more, and Google has been kind of inching that way. So pretty much no. They have so much control over that vertical. You can't just go out there and start your own app store. You would have to start your own line of devices, start your own, build your own operating system, and then get developers out there to learn that operating system and have a system out there for developing apps for that operating system. The smartphone wasn't just a huge leap in technology because it allowed people to have a supercomputer in their pocket. It was a huge leap because it came with a development platform and opened up the ability for other people to develop apps for that operating system. That was the real big win that was kind of missed by the public. App developers could hop in there, make their own softwares, and then market it to the public. They could then download those apps and use it on their little pocket supercomputer. So you would have to develop that entire infrastructure behind a new phone, a new operating system, a new app store, potentially even a new language or a new development framework, and then put that out there and then have a network of developers hop on there and start developing apps and putting those things out there, redeveloping existing apps like, something very popular like the Facebook app or something in your platform for your operating system and have people download it. Like, it's just such a massive infrastructure project that I don't think anyone is in a place to realistically compete with these companies. So that's why this is such a huge move for them to unilaterally make this decision. That's not even touching Amazon and AWS's decision to pull the website down, but just talking Google and Apple both pulling something. That's effectively removing someone from an entire marketplace, and there's no way around it. They have no recourse.
Yeah, well said, Miles. I think when we look back 50, 100 years, or our ancestors, 100 years plus, look back at the history of the internet, what happened over the weekend will certainly be a chapter in that book and be studied, because I think it's extremely profound.
I mean, they're
And I'm
already being sued for being immensely powerful, for potentially
right.
being monopolies and completely controlling what is now the public square of communication, that is the internet. And doing this, again, regardless of what you think of particular policies or anything, demonstrates that they do indeed have the power to do that. Completely take something out of the marketplace for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think that there's no way that doesn't play into existing lawsuits. And I mean, honestly, I think there's going to be a swarm of other lawsuits that pop up after this, because there's no putting this genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it can't be overstated. The entire present and the immediate future of business and communication is via mobile applications, and the power that those two companies have is just, it's literally overwhelming. And I don't think, we've always thought, well, they could they could abuse this power. They've, as you said, they've been getting increasingly more and more strict in terms of their internal regulations about what they want someone or somebody to not do when they're developing an app on their platform. But I don't think anybody really saw it going this way this fast. And say what you want about Parler itself, obviously nobody at Wildman Web Solutions condones violence or hate speech or anything like that. But we are proponents of freedom of expression and free markets, and so this is an issue that kind of touches on a number of different topics. Whether it be competitiveness, free speech in society, et cetera, et cetera. But to me, it was really interesting that the moment that all of this happened was the same moment that Parler became the number one downloaded app in the Apple and Google's app stores. I mean, like, that can't be a coincidence, And I know a lot of people who have been cheering this on have been saying, well, this was a place for hate, and they were coordinating attacks, and so on and so forth. And if somebody has any evidence to back that up, please send it to me, because I haven't been able to find it. What we have evidence of, and what we're quite sure about, is that things like what happened at the Capitol last week were mostly planned and organized on platforms like Facebook and YouTube, which is owned by Google. So if that's why Parler was taken off, the internet, why isn't Facebook and Google, subject to those same things? On Twitter, hashtag Hang Mike Pence was tweeting all weekend long. I mean, I don't know how you can get more insightful of violence against a sitting government than that. So that's the big question mark here, is why exactly was Parler signaled out, and why isn't this same standards being applied across the board? We could say, okay, it's because Parler had been recently, I don't know if taken over is the right word, but heavily populated by Trump supporters and people on the right. So it could be political. That could be it, and that would be certainly astonishing. But it also could be just a good old fashioned, let's take out the competition. And that Parler was being seen as a competitive nature to the tech giants in Silicon Valley. I mean, that's to me the biggest stark contract between this, is that the one who was taken out for violating the quote unquote terms of service was the one who wasn't in the club yet, and everybody else who is also violating those same terms of service is in the club. The club being big tech and Silicon Valley giants, and that they don't want anybody else in the club. And to me, that's staggering. When we think about the long-term implications of innovation in technology and innovations specifically in the mobile app space, if they're able to preemptively shut somebody down and not let anybody even create the app or publish the app in the first place because they have some association, or they think that certain brand of users are going to be on it, or they just don't want any more competition. you know, which we don't know the exact reason why this is happening yet. That's a very scary thing. If they can just say, well, no, actually, we don't want any competition for the social media giants out there, so we're not going to let it happen. I hope that's not what happened in this case. But like I said, it's really quite confusing, because if you go on what they just say the reasons were, well, you can look at almost every other provider out there, and they're in violation of those very same things, a lot of times in a greater degree than Parler was. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Miles, but what are your thoughts on the rationale that's been given about why this has happened, and Parler's been signaled out specifically, and what that means for people like us who are wanting to innovate and produce more apps in the future.
Yeah, I don't know if why is really the question here, because I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, mostly what I'm thinking is these are huge companies. They're looking to make a buck. They're looking for profit. Therefore, this is probably some sort of profit motive. Um, I don't know, but regardless of what you think about this particular instance, maybe this particular one was justified. Maybe this particular app was bad, or was being misused, and therefore, it's in the public good to remove this option from people's hands. That could be a perfectly valid argument, but it doesn't really matter. The question, or the scary thing here, is that these businesses have the power to do this, that they can just decide this is gone and completely wipe someone off of the internet. There's politicians around the world arguing that internet is a right at this point. It should be treated as a human right, up there with food and clean water. Just access to that level of information is part of the human existence now. And if we get ourselves into a situation and we let this snowball to a point where a couple of people have the ability to just knock people off the internet entirely, I don't think that censor is a big enough word for that. And so, regardless of the specifics of this particular situation, again, maybe this was a good one to remove the option, or maybe there was some wrongdoing that happened here, and we can look at that particular situation. But looking at this in general and what kind of precedent this sets, and also just the proof of the power that these companies have, two of them can come together, control 99% of the market, and just wipe someone off the map like that. That is very concerning for competitive reasons, for business reasons, and then as a developer myself, as one that I'd be happy to go out there and build a new platform and put something out there and get some funding and really start developing something. That's something I could really see myself doing. I considered doing in the past, and I know several people that have worked in my space, that I've worked on dev teams with, that have built their own thing and put it out there. It's really scary to think that, if the intents here weren't exactly noble, if they were just trying to knock out competition, or maybe if they just did disagree with particular policy or how you were running your thing, and they can just knock you out, that's very concerning to me. And I hope that we are able to address it. This isn't the first time we've talked about legislation around tech. I mean, remember a couple of months back, we had those congressional hearings, and the heads of all the big tech companies were in there, and it was just clear that our legislative body had no idea how any of this stuff worked. You had 90-year-old men in there asking about how their email was connected to WhatsApp, connected to Facebook, and just had no clue as to what they were even asking about, let alone how to legislate around these things. This stuff moves so fast, and these things are so big, these companies are so big and so powerful. If we aren't able to keep up with it as a society and on a governmental level, then we can see stuff like this snowball, and all of a sudden, before you know it, 3 people have control over the biggest information source on the planet and are able to alter human society. I mean, that's some crazy dystopian level stuff right there. But we're not that many steps away from that being a realistic possibility. So that's my big concern here. I definitely want to keep things open, allow new technology to grow and develop, and that requires the players and the market as a whole to allow new things to rise and for competition to happen naturally.
Yeah, great points there, Miles. I noticed a tweet from Elon Musk the other day. He was promoting Signal, which is a competitor to WhatsApp and I believe Twitter. And that was really interesting because I think, if we look at this landscape of who maybe could emerge as a possible, competitor in this space, you have to think Elon's certainly capable of that daunting task of actually building out, a mobile platform to compete with Apple and Google, whether or not he actually would.
I said it was impossible, but he made an electric car, which was impossible, and then he made a rocket, which was impossible, and then he stuck that car in a rocket, played Rocket Man up into space, which is impossible and cartoonish. So yeah, there's always outliers. When I say this is impossible, there's always people like that, and maybe someone's going to step up and do it. I just wanted to outline the gravity of the situation in that there is this entire infrastructure surrounding these things, making that barrier to entry that much more difficult, to where you do have to be someone like Musk in order to really break into the space and do something properly. You can't just be some little startup starting out of a garage like Google and like Facebook and like all of like Microsoft, like all the big tech players were at one point.
Those days are gone. That land has been grabbed. That's excellent points. And this is going to certainly evolve over the next few weeks as these lawsuits get some attention to it. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see what the courts really do think about what you were just talking about just the power that these institutions have. I think as private companies, we all would agree that they can pretty much do what they want on their platforms. The question is, are they colluding with each other in order to stifle competition? Because I think that would be a pretty clear case of antitrust law violation and racketeering. And so that'll be really interesting. And then there's a separate lawsuit that was filed before all of this, Miles. But you just made me think about it earlier with the Google search stuff. And I can't remember the name of the company. You probably are on top of this more than I am. But there's a company out there that's suing Google for billions of dollars because basically they're trying to prove in federal court that Google manipulated search results. And so that when somebody was searching directly for their company, Google instead put their product in front of it. And it basically took traffic that was going to go to them, this other company, back to a Google controlled company and cost them billions of dollars. And so that'll be really interesting to see, what comes out of that. I think the bad side about, whether no matter what happens is there's going to be less freedom in the internet probably after all this is said and done, for good or ill. Maybe some of it will come out on the good side of things, but there's got to be some strong regulations coming down along all these lines if there wasn't already.
Well, that's why I started off. My opening statement here was, I don't know what's going to happen. Anyone who says otherwise is lying to you. There is so much up in the air, so many complexities, and all of these conversations are all tying together into one massive ball of questions that we as a people are going to have to figure out moving forward one way or another. I don't know if these decisions should be made on the level that they're being made, or if we're going to have to tackle them again later. But yeah, we're definitely seeing, I think you're right. I think that when we look back at this, there's going to be a chapter in the history books about these decisions being made now, and this is the opening page. So we'll see where it
Did
all
you
falls. But as a digital agency here, and people who do work on each and every one of these platforms, along with building custom softwares ourselves, we're clearly going to stay on top of it and hopefully let people know. So if you guys want to, follow us here, then we'll try to keep you updated on everything as much as we can, at least from a technology and from a marketing standpoint, if not a legal standpoint. Maybe we'll have to bring in a guest or
we're not
something.
giving any law any law advice.
Yeah, I don't think we're really qualified to talk about any of that. I can talk about the tech and we can talk about the marketing side, but I have no idea where these lawsuits are going to land. It is above our pay grade.
Did you see the incredibly ironic tweet from Twitter in Uganda, Miles?
I did. Yeah, Twitter's policy department put that out. I don't know if that was. I don't know what kind of misstep that was. I mean,
we call that a PR problem in the business.
yeah. No one liked that. Nobody liked that tweet. People who didn't say it, they were tweeting out against censorship around the Ugandan election. They started just turning off social media companies. Their argument was that they just didn't want it to pollute their election, and so they just started shutting off the access to global social media companies. The counter argument there is that they're censoring information and keeping their citizens in the dark in order to control the election there. But Twitter tweeted out, or their policy department tweeted out, like that this was a gross violation of human rights and access to the hashtag open internet right after all of these kinds of censors, which they weren't a direct part of the censors that we were talking about today, but it's definitely a climate that they're part of. They are in that club, as you said. So I don't know. I don't know who decided that was a good idea.
Well, it was interesting, and I really greatly appreciate the explanation you gave about the mobile platforms and why this is such a big deal, because I don't think that people fully understand it. I've seen a lot of people say, well, why don't they just start their, why doesn't Parler just start their own app, or or start their own, be self-sufficient and all these things. It's like, well, that's what they were trying to do, is as best as you could possibly do in this landscape.
But at some point, you have to use the existing infrastructure. Right. I mean, it was originally build your own Twitter. Cool. He did that. Right. Now it's build your own operating system, build your own app store, build your own server farm. Like at this point, you're just building your own internet, which is ill-advisable on a lot of fronts. I don't think that that's a great idea.
So one last thing, though, Miles. Yeah. Did you see, I'm forgetting his name now. Sir something, the guy who invented the World Wide Web. I need more coffee. Anyways, he's now come back out of the woodwork and said that he's going to rebuild the internet. And he's going to fix all this stuff.
Fresh start.
So there you go. There's the knight in shining armor. Yeah, the guy who actually built the World Wide Web came out and said, okay, we've had enough of this. Big tech has basically ruined it. And so I'm going to rebuild the internet again. And I'm going to make sure that it's safe, secure, and open. So we'll see. But yeah, I think the good thing from all of this is
start over.
Well, I mean, let's put this in perspective for people. Okay, we all know that the internet isn't going away, but I think that maybe what people don't realize is how big the internet is in terms of not only now, but how big it's going to become in our lives and literally take over everything. The internet, as Gary Vee says, is going to eliminate the middle. There will be no middlemen left. And so the history of the internet is very, very new. This is like, we just invented fire yesterday, and we're still living in caves as far as the history of the internet is concerned. And so I think that the good thing that will come out of this is that there will be, just a desire for more rapid innovation. And like you pointed out brilliantly, this is not something that can or will happen overnight. But we're in this for the long haul. You know, we're going to be stuck with this digital age for the very, very foreseeable future. Our grandkids are going to be, you know, having these same problems. And so I would rather some competitor, you know, come along and offer more choice, more innovation, more freedom in this space now than 20, 30 years down the line. You know, and so to end this with a bit of positivity, which I think we could all use right now with what's been
Yes,
going on
please.
in current events, is that you know, we have to take our medicine at some point. We all knew that the tech giants had too much power. It was just a matter of what would they do with it and when. And now we've gotten a little taste of that. And so I think that that's going to spur innovation. It's going to spur people like you know, Elon and the guy who invented the World Wide Web, and hopefully some others, you know, to kind of get off their rear ends and really add something to this space, and hopefully make it better for consumers, because that's what competition will always bring, is better service and lower prices for the people who use those products and services. You know. And so that's what we want in order to make a better technological industry and a better internet for our future and in business and communications. And that's my silver lining in all of this, is that, you know, I hope it's going to get better before it's going to get worse in the near term, but I hope it gets better in the long term, Miles.
Yeah, I think ultimately, you know, we'll figure this out one way or another. New tech's popping up all the time. People are smart, so we'll get there. It just might be a little bit bumpy here for a little bit while we're figuring out the training wheels. Which I agree with you. You know, this is like we just invented fire yesterday. We're dealing with some very new things that, you know, we don't know how to handle. So I think we're doing the best that we can. So I'm really interested to see how things shake out in the upcoming months and the coming year, specifically with these issues. But I'm sure these are only the first in a long line of pretty hard questions that we're going to have to ask ourselves. Well, let's pull out of this nosedive of a conversation, and I think we're coming up on our time here, so I'm just going to recap. If you're just joining us here, or if this is the first time you're seeing this, this is Ask Wildman, an open Q&A. So hopefully the idea here is we're having a conversation with you. We're providing resources. We're answering questions. About technology, about business, about marketing, whatever you guys want to ask us about. So throw your questions in the comments below if you want us to dive into something, or you want us to tackle a new subject, or if you've just been struggling with something recently. We know a lot of small businesses have been either getting online for the first time or trying to leverage technology and the online presence that they have a little bit more this last year, and come up with a couple of tough spots, a couple of questions, and we want to be a resource to help you get over those. So we're doing this every week. Check back in with us next Wednesday at 11. We are live streaming to both our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. We also have the archives of this show on our website. If you want to go back and watch older shows, or if, you know, we reference something today that you want to get in on, go ahead and check that out on our website. There's a page called Livestream Archives that has all of our shows going back to the beginning of the pandemic. Actually, we've been doing this for a couple of months now. I guess coming up on a year. Wow, we need to. That's crazy. Anyway, so yeah, check that out. We've also got our blog there, a bunch of articles, a bunch of other resources for you. But we are here to be that resource for small businesses getting themselves online and leveraging technology to grow and achieve their goals. So if you think that the information we're putting out here is useful, relevant, answered some of your questions, please give us a like, share, tell your friends about it. And if you're catching this later, not live, you can email us your questions at askwildman@wildmanweb.com, and we'll get back to you there, or maybe even discuss it next week on the show.
Miles,
Mike, closing thoughts?
Before I go,
Yes,
I feel like I need to give the people even more good news.
All right.
So we're really going to go out on a streak of positivity today. We're going to give away some free shit, folks. We are going to give away a free website. That is correct. We know As Miles just said, this whole pandemic thing's been going on for almost a year now,
It's been
and
wild.
God willing, it's going to be over soon. But we don't know when that's going to be, and folks are still struggling. Folks are still hurting out there, and times are tough. Let's be honest. So we're doing everything we can to help. That's why partly the reason why we're doing this show. But we thought we'd take it up a notch. And I twisted Miles's arm. No, I'm just kidding. He was more than willing to do this. He is going to build a state-of-the-art, brand new website for one lucky winner out there. We're going to launch this contest later on this week. So another reason why you want to be signed up for the newsletter and make sure you're paying attention to our social channels. You can nominate yourself, or you can nominate a business that you think is deserving. And we are going to announce it live here on the show, probably in a week or two. And we're going to set somebody up with a brand spanking new website for 2021, courtesy of Wildman Web Solutions. So there you go, folks.
Oh, that's a nice note to end on. Yeah, we'll be putting out some new information on that, and some information on how to sign up and how to nominate. Like you said, you can sign yourself up, or you can nominate a friend or another business that you think could really use it. So follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever you social, and we'll be putting out some information there. All right, I think that's it for today. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Mike.
Yep, everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Miles.
All right, like I said, we're doing this every week, so make sure to tune in next Wednesday at 11 for more questions answered, more tech news, and more information on that website giveaway. And we'll see you all next week.